right. Why is everything reversed? That's weird. Oh. Why is it mirroring everything I do? This is not good. All right. What the hell? All right. So I got two people on. All right, good enough to start. All right, I can't write backwards. This is ridiculous. Um, all right, all right. So if anyone's actually there, yeah, go ahead, say something in the chat because I need to ask a quick question before I can even do anything. Forever. All right, is this any better? Because it's a new headset, so I'm not 100% used to it. All right. Image is not mirrored. Good. Thank you very much, Pat. Perfect. Okay. So, seeing as you're not a whole lot of you here, we will go ahead and get started. But that's cool. All right. So, basically, what I want to do first off is I'll say, hey, welcome to World Building 101. Oh, crap. Anthony's here. Hey, Netta. All right. So, kind of what I'm going to be covering. And then kind of who I get here. So a lot of you already know, obviously, DM Scotty, Gareth, what they're doing with quest givers. And there is another one that I've been watching a lot. And that's the Dawn Forged cast here on YouTube. They do a phenomenal series of world building and that kind of stuff, but I do it a little different. I like when I run games, it's very cinematic, it's very intense, and so I want the world to be that way too. So when you're building your world, you kind of want to think of the basics behind it. How did it come into being? How was it created? And so you can essentially, say screw physics. If you want rivers to run uphill, if you want every stream of water to run from north to south, do whatever the hell you want. It's your world. And that's kind of the whole thing behind it. It's yours. So we'll go into that in a little bit. There's no real rhyme or reason. You want your world to be a cube, maybe. Do that. Traveling across corners would be interesting, but you can do it. A ring world like Halo, or do you want a world inside a world? So perhaps you've got like the Middle Earth scenario, big donut. Who knows? Whatever you want to do, you can do. Buddy of mine, Jason, plays Gaslands. And their number one rule for the whole thing is the rule of cool. If it looks cool, do it. Simple enough. Same goes for me when I'm running games. If it's cool, give it a shot. Roll for it, and you probably can figure out how to do it. So We'll go into that kind of stuff as we go into more detail. What you want to figure out are how big do you want to start? Do you want to create the entirety of the planet, multiple planets, or do you just want to get down to the nitty gritty of where your characters are going to be? I tend to start small, and then I'll work out as they expand their area of influence. So it could be a small continent, it could be a chain of islands. You just say, okay, here's the coastline, here's your city, and then they only know so much out that way. So one thing I did do, just shits and giggles, is printed out this map. Who can tell me? Do they know what this is? I want to see how well everyone's geography is. What did I print out? Well, there's only 3 of you. One of you has to know. Well, yeah, we all made that up. So, it's Australia's fake news. So, but one fun thing to do, especially when you've got a bunch of players who think they know all of the they know where Waterdeep is. They all know the lands around it. They know the path to Strahd's castle like the back of their hand. Flip it. Just say, okay, you think you know. We'll just go with Australia. So we know Waterdeep's a coastal town. Maybe Waterdeep is up here, right? Use real geography and just put your stuff there. So if they're starting in Waterdeep, they might know just this bay, this area up here, and not a whole lot out. And that way, it's still new for them, even though it's existing cities they're familiar with talking about. So, and you could bring in stuff from all different kinds of different place settings and different modules into real world geography. Now, of course, everyone knows that, Canada is going to, that you don't go there because you'll die. It's just cold and full of funny monsters called hosers or something. I don't know. But same goes with Australia. They've got all kinds of killer beasts. But it's fun to use real world geography because, if you've got a player who's from Australia, they can be like, oh, shit, I grew up 5 miles from Waterdeep. Something like that. But it allows you to jump right in to setting up a campaign without having to deal with geography and where the mountain range is at, how do I do the rivers, where the lake's at. All you gotta do is name stuff and put some major cities on there. Everything else is going to come with time as they explore. So like I said, give them that much of an area that the locals know about. And so, if this is Waterdeep, I don't play actual modules much, so I don't know all of the cities. But let's say you want to throw Greyhawk in there. Well, let's put that over here. City of Greyhawk. It's on the opposite coast. We'll just throw it over there, just for fun. But what's fun about this is how huge Australia is. Silvery Moon, Red Larch, yeah. By doing it this way, you not only have familiar terrain, but you have an entire world that you know the geography of, and so you can match described geography in a module with real world geography when you place your stuff. So if you've got some, you're running somebody through Well, like we're doing the Lost Mines, actually. And so, it's in a mountainous area. It could be down here. It could be up in these mountains up on this side, maybe along this coast, pretty much anywhere that you want to start the campaign out. And that way it's familiar. You can get actual topographical maps of that area. So when you're showing the players, they're like, holy crap, it's real. This is a real place. And it just makes it a lot of fun. And, don't be afraid to use, small towns, use real ones. Find a map of some, small village in Australia, maybe dumb it down a little for D&D. So, they're not going to have, cars and lawnmowers and streetlights and all that. But town is a town is a town. It's just merely the number of people. So all you've got to do is populate it, and it's already there. But that's one way to go is, and then if you realize the size of Australia and the rest of the world around it, you've got a lot of places to play with. And that's one thing I think that there's not always that sense of scale when it comes to modules, because they do keep it small for the most part. You're not these huge world travelers. So that's one way to do it. So we'll go into more geography as we go along and building your geography. So geography. All right. So, and then it's a matter of, well, where do I start? All right. So like I said, you could start either at this end where you've got an entire planet mapped out with all the moons and everything figured out, all the way down to a single village and maybe a couple of acres around it. And it all depends on the scope of your adventure. Whew. There you go. It's a new setup with the camera, so trying to keep it all up. You can't read it anyway. My writing sucks. So you can go from, tiny village to the planet. And there's a huge range of ways to do all of it. I've got a globe sitting around here somewhere that eventually I will turn into an actual world I'm creating. I like to go somewhere starting right here, single continent. Just because it's easier. You've got one local place where you can really delve in and you can deal with the politics. You can deal with what races are where, how do they interact with other people? Are there any places that just people don't go? And so, for instance, like here, you could say, because you've got this huge mountain range here, and you've got a fairly open spot where there's nothing, like right in this area, except for this lake. And it's almost like a dead zone. It's flat. I've actually looked at the topographical maps. It's plains. And there are towns in there in real life. But in my world, I'd be like, all right, so the battle for creation, when the gods were divvying up the world, there was a battle here. Two gods slammed down. One killed the other. Huge explosion of magic and just pure god power being released. Wiped out everything. So these mountains are actually where the ground was shoved up out of the way. In my world. And so this whole area, is more of a divot than flat. And this whole area, using these mountains as almost a buffer around it, is like this tremendous wild magic zone. So people don't go there because some seriously, seriously crazy crap happens in that area. non-spellcasters are throwing fireballs. Spellcasters are throwing stuff that they never knew they could do, or have, fireball turns into a giant plume of, dust, something. So, we could throw that in there. And so at the very beginning, that's all you want to deal with is the basics. Don't really worry about towns. Don't worry about how they're going to get from one place to another. Hey, Megamoo. Good. Welcome. So all you need is the basics. You've got big mountain ranges all through here and along the coast. It's given you the rivers already by using pre-existing geography. So you set it up to your liking. And then as you go in, you put in some major cities. So we have 2 over here. Maybe there's another one on this coast over here. There's probably I'm not even naming them. It's just where they at. We'll put nothing on this island. We'll put another one over here. There's probably one big one near where all these rivers kind of converge. And that's kind of what you want to look at is, okay, what's going to, they put another one there and then put one right in here. These are like the major cities. So then you want to figure out, all right, so I want to zoom down in to this area. Yeah, I want to focus on, it's already got this little grid on it. We'll say we want to focus on this area because that's going to be the adventurers' area of influence. All right, so you've got a major city here, down here, another town further upriver. We'll say there's like a mining village right here. You got is dotting this area down here, and then you've got put an outpost right here. There's some strange creatures coming out of this wild magic area. So, they put little outposts around it to try and keep track of what's going in and out. And so you're like, okay, so, all right, so we need to figure out a name for at least the major city. So we'll call this one Silvery Moon. We're going to pull names from existing campaigns. We'll pull it there. Now, keep in mind, I don't know anything about Silvery Moon in the books. I've heard the name, but I don't know what the city's all about. It doesn't matter. You don't have to. This is your world. It can be whatever you want. It's just a cool name. So we'll say, let's see. So, okay. Silver Moon. Or Silver Moon, was it? Silver Moon. Okay, Silver Moon. All right, so we'll say maybe it's a large city. Maybe let's see, ruling body in it is the Council of 12. I read that in a book somewhere. I don't remember where. Council of 12. So then you could figure out, oh, thanks, Netta. So then you would figure out, okay, who are these people? How do they answer? What do they do? Then you figure out, okay, so adventurers there going to want to buy stuff. So is there a cap on how expensive of stuff they can get? Maybe anything under 1,000 gold pieces. If you look hard enough, is available. There's probably a couple people that have items worth more, but they're kind of like the back room behind the counter type deals. So you figure out how you want your Silvery Moon to be. And then it's like, all right, so how do these people get around? Well, it's on the coast, so there's going to be docks and ships. And there's probably a road that goes along the coast, connecting all these fishing villages because they're going to want to bring their wares to the different cities to sell. These guys have to probably come over here, and maybe there's a barge that crosses that little strait right there. Either that or they can take a ship and come around. Most of these outposts, there's probably rough trails, something like that. Mirror bar, human monarchy above, door below the mice. Okay. We'll put that somewhere else. So that's the basics of it is, okay, you've got where they're going to be. You start figuring out how they're going to go to other places. Now, that's for the players. This is the player's knowledge. I always do 2 maps. So let's say, okay, so you've got the basic towns labeled, what they know about them, the major cities, the basic routes that people would take. So that's set in stone. Then you go to your DM map, and then you're like, all right, so I know that right here, this is where they're a mated pair of dragons nest. And they actually absorbing the energy. So we'll leave them there. And then let's see, this little lake out here, we'll say that tribe of lizard men have their home around that little lake. So they've taken over the whole area. Huge tribe of lizard men. But they kind of stick to themselves unless you bother them. In these mountains here, maybe they're, you've got a dragon that patrols this area. But nobody really has heard, too much about it, mostly because there's no survivors. And below it is some abandoned mines that these guys have not come across yet, that connect to the Underdark. So you've got Duergar and all that other stuff ready to come boiling out. Perfect plot hook. And so you start labeling where you want creatures to be. Don't put everything down, though. And here's why. Players are like cats. If you want, you've got them here in Silvery Moon, and you have an adventure set up to go with the lizardmen. I guarantee they're not going to go from here to here. They're just not going to do it. So what they're probably going to do is they're going to go over here and they're going to check out this city. Then they're going to go look at the mine. Then they're going to go sightseeing up in here. And then for some crazy ass reason, they're going to want to go to this big ass island here. Then they'll go visit neighbors and, friends in Greyhawk. They're going to go anywhere but where you want them to go. So off to the side, you could have, okay, label of lizard man. Lizard man encounter. You set up an encounter, figure out how many lizard men, figure out where, it's flat with marshlands or something. You've got that off to the side. So anywhere they go, you can go tell them, okay, you're starting to go through like this marshland area, roll initiative or roll perception or however you like to start your encounters. Doesn't matter where they are other than open water, but you can throw that encounter at them. It doesn't have to always be there. Same with specific areas like the Lost Mines. Well, they don't have to be here. They can be here. They can be anywhere in the mountainous areas that your players go. So rather than railroad players to the campaign, adjust the campaign to where the players think they're going. Sounds simple, but a lot of people don't. They just get frustrated because it's herding cats with the stupid players. So, okay. Yeah, 3 people. I don't care. So that's the basics of how I would handle that. So then we'll go into a little more detail with actually building up the areas, actually make a full map. And once we get to that, we'll actually start discussing building a campaign of your own. Yeah, I know, Anthony. And we'll start designing a sandbox campaign. It's something I've done for, God, 25 years, building sandbox campaigns, running them, playing in them. Never ran a module. So, yeah. And so I will go in and just basically do Q&A sessions through other live streams for people who are creating their own worlds, who are building a sandbox or currently running a sandbox campaign. And that's one place that I think I differ a bit from some other people doing similar stuff, is they're doing vids. This is how I do it. Watch it and enjoy. And that's cool. I mean, like Dawn Forge Cast, huge library of stuff. Very few live stream. They don't have the time. I don't have the time to edit a video, so it's easier for me to do a live stream. I may actually start doing it straight off of the off my Facebook. I'm not sure. It depends on, you know, how much people actually care to watch. So I think it'd be cool. Anybody of the massive crowd here watching have any questions so far? I know Anthony's got to have questions. All he does is sculpt stuff. Yeah, that's true. Netta, as far as you don't necessarily need the continental landmarks. You know, like that little lake with, you know, the lizard men there. If it's a very large, yeah. Oh, come on, Anthony. You know I love your shit. All I see you sculpt though is the sculpting. I don't know about the world building end of it. We've actually never discussed that. So, you know, that's a conversation you and I can have later. You know, we'll get into it. Like these lakes all here would probably be known by name. This one, maybe it's kind of in the edge of that wild magic area, but some of these tiny ones, and then some that are small enough to not even be on the map, would be good fodder for a lizard man encampment or tribal home. So maybe there's a series of lakes through this area, and they start encountering the lizard men, and then that leads them to the big people. But you know, you just look through your list of different monsters, different creatures, different races, and kind of give a general area of where their influence is. One book I was reading a while back was going into dragons as if they were real. So, like if they'd been studied scientifically, and it was saying that a large dragon could have a range that they patrol or hunt in covering several hundred square miles. And so you could have an overlay. If you use tracing paper, it works really well. And lay over the different ranges of different, like, named dragons, like big bad dragons, and what they consider their area, their yard. And you know, so you may have several different overlays for different things. 40 years, yeah. We should all get together and build a world together. That would be great. That's kind of what we're going to do here. So that's kind of, you know, the dealing with the geography and the where. Then we're going to get into the what. Different creatures. Now, one thing I love to do, and I always say it, is flip the script. Take what your players think they know and make it wrong. Now, an orc, brute, stupid. Let's see, what else isn't orc? Ugly. You know, angry all the time, right? That's your orc. All right. Maybe they may still be ugly. What if the orcs are the more philosophical, artistic, and they're all good tips. Just kind of going over basic geography and how to come up with it. So we've been using a map of Australia here to, just play around. Right now, we're actually just starting to talk about flipping the script and reskinning beasts. So like I said, orcs, typical descriptions. They're brutish, they're stupid, they're angry all the time, they're ugly. They're the you find orcs out in the wild and they're using wooden spears and crappy armor. And then you get the elves. They're smart, they're a pretty race, they're highly evolved, and long-lived. Right? All right, so elves are still going to be the pretty ones, but what if we start flipping these things around? Make the elves the brutish, angry. They're still going to be these long-lived, very beautiful people, but they're assholes. They'll kill you. They'll eat you. Make them. Flip it around. Make them the cannibals. Make them the ones that people watch out for. And the orcs, they're the ones that people go to when they want really well done armor, beautiful cities, and you could even, along with this, do the same with their stats. Yeah, why is that held for review? Probably because I don't know. Well, yeah, that's because elves think they're better than everybody else. They are the assholes. But that's because they're hoity-toity, I live up on Snob Hill. My race has been around forever, blah, blah, blah. Take all that away. Instead, make them to where they are the brutish, typically barbarian style, and just a horrible race. But make the orcs the good guys. The orcs are the ones making the beautiful stuff. The orcs are the ones helping everybody out. And you can do it with a ton of them. Dwarves. Make them more like halflings. They're happy-go-lucky. They like to get high. They like to get drunk still. But they don't like to work hard. They just want to lay around, eat, and get fat and drink. Maybe go on an adventure every now and then. Whereas the halflings are the dour, hard-working. They're down in the mines, but they're making some of the most amazing stonework you've ever seen. Or goblins. I agree. So, reskinning is simple. It can be quick if you know what you're talking about and what you're doing, and we will delve into that with any questions people have. And it's fun because it's literally takes stuff that has been around since before I was born, at least in some form, and makes it new. I've done campaigns where there are no humans, none. They don't exist. So, half orcs, half elves, any of that kind of stuff, they're mixed with something else. Typically elves. I had a guy who ran a orc dwarf combo, and it was fun. A short, stocky orc with a big bushy beard. So that's one way to do it, but always keep them on their toes. Don't let them think that they know everything. Which brings me to the next point, actually. Rule lawyering. It's your world. Books are guidelines, not rules. If you want the players to be able to do something, let them do it. If it's really cool, if it drives the story. Like I said, my buddy Jason, the rule of cool is his big motto when it comes to gaming. And I like it. If you want your fighter wants to jump off a cliff, the great sword in one hand because he's big and brutal, jump off on, land on the dragon, stab it in the head. Roll for it. Make your athletics check for the jump. Make your attack roll. Well, I'm wearing heavy plate mail and I weighed it. Screw it. Make your rolls. He's got to hit the DC, but depending on how well it drives the story, you maybe get advantage for having the high ground. Who knows? Make it cool. Make it fun. The character should be the central. Right here. All right. For me, the story is everything. And the characters are the center of the story. Everything else revolves around that. You're literally with a map and the world and things around it. You're just simply giving backdrop to the story that you're going to tell with your players. It's all about cooperative storytelling. Rule lawyers don't understand that. So, they want to, oh, no, that doesn't work. You can't roll it like that. Or, oh, that spell doesn't work that way. Maybe it does in your world. DM's prerogative. Change my mind whenever I feel like. Weird shit happens when the god's got an anger problem. Whatever the case may be, make it fun. You're building the world. You're building the creatures. You're building the story with them. So, who's to say how things might work? It's like I said at the beginning, fuck physics. This ain't going to be monetized anyway. I don't care about language. Screw physics. If you, maybe, somebody else wanted to join. Still running. Clock in and see. So, crap. All right, hang on. I got to go back in here and fix this. Apparently, it did not. At 3 p.m. What the hell? Why? Well, that's really weird. All right, I gotta send somebody. Tabletop. New link. That is very strange, but okay. We do some seriously messed up stuff. So, no, apparently one of the links wasn't working and it was going to something else, and I don't know why, and it was really weird. So, where was I? Okay. Yeah, I just totally lost my train of thought by how to fix stuff, but that's all good. All right. So, but keeping it fun. Physics, yeah. All right, physics. All right, this one's not going to work. I need something. I needed this. Thankfully, I get these pads of paper for like $2 from a friend of mine. So, all right. So you got your whole world, your globe, so to speak. And if any of you know actual physics and real world applications for why we have the seasons, why the sun goes up and down, all that kind of stuff. It all has to do with the axis of the planet, the rotation around it, that, the tilt around the sun, all of that. What's fun, and I've actually done it before, is have a world where this whole section up here, maybe even, even a little further down, is constantly pointed away from the sun. Whereas the bottom, or the other end, is constantly towards it. No matter how it spins, it's wonky on its axis, however it may be. So it's always the further north you go, the colder and darker it gets. The further south you go, it gets warmer and brighter until eventually there's no night and there's no day. And that is, one way, because obviously real world physics don't work that way. It may still be colder at the poles, but you're still going to have some up, day and night. Riddick. You've got a planet that, at night is super cold. During the day, it'll burn you to death. But you've got an area that travels around that is livable. Well, if you widen that enough to where, say, they get, from the coldest part of the night to the hottest part of the next day. So they've got this time period. Maybe it's 2 days because it's slow. So the sun starts to come up a little bit. They have 2 days before it's too hot to travel. Maybe not go to the extremes that Riddick did in the movie, or that the movie did, but something like that. You don't have to stick to everything the way it is here on our planet Earth. And like I was saying, you could do a ring world to where, you're like on the halo, so it may be different. I have done one where you've got the planet, there's the crust, in the middle is trapped a star. All civilization is on the inside of the sphere. Outside, it's dead. Right? There's nothing there. Nothing lives there. There's still an atmosphere, but nothing lives up there. Some huge catastrophe happened, some major cataclysm, everything moved into the interior of the planet. So you could build that. Then you have adventures going outside, trying to figure out what's going on the outside. What caused it? Is there anything left? Is there anything coming back? Is there any possibility of living back on the surface? Rewritten and retold, so now they sound like some kind of weird mystic mumbo jumbo. Could do that. When I did do this, imagine a bunch of D&D players. There's a couple dwarves, an elf, and I think a halfling going along, finding a wrecked spaceship up there. I've actually done that to people and had them freak out. It was kind of fun. So, but you could do that. But physics don't have to matter as much. You get to decide how they work, but you just have to be consistent with them. So if you've got, all the water runs from north to south, make sure it happens that way. Unless there's a reason for it to stop happening. And a lot of the rules make a lot of sense. Line of sight, blocking, all that kind of stuff that deals with, what the players can actually see and do. with a couple exceptions. Here's where the rule of cool comes in. All right, so you're fighting in a hallway. Your players are down here. Sorry, a couple of creatures up here. This guy wants to shoot this guy. You know, it's okay. Good line of sight on all of them. What if this guy backs up? All of a sudden he's blocked, right? What if this guy's like preeminent archer? He wants to skip the arrow off the walls, ricochet it around, and hit him. A lot of players say no, or DMs would, there's no way. Well, if he hits just right, he might be able to do it. He's going to have to roll like super high, but don't say no. Let him try it. It'll be cool if it works, right? High fives all around. Even if he does like 2 points of freaking damage, it's going to look awesome. It's going to be cinematic. It's going to be something they'd put in a freaking movie. That's how your players should feel. Like they're watching the most exciting movie ever made because it's them. And I love it when players do cinematic stuff. Netta knows this. My favorite character, Ozzy. He does some whacked out crap. A lot of it's because of wild magic. But rather than get bummed out because wild magic's ruining stuff, I went with it. Now he thinks he's a god. He's completely convinced that he is ascending to godhood. Everything that happens is just something that happens on his way there. So he goes out of his way to do wild, wacky shit. So, you know, and we've got, you know, some other characters who do same stuff. We got a dwarf who will whoop the crap out of you and then smile while he's doing it. And it's insane. And I've seen people do the leaping off of buildings, and in a Shadowrun game, I had people leaping across freeways from building to building because they want to try it. So let them try it. The rule of cool. It's the only one that should apply. Yeah, you've got you have to roll to hit, and you have these bonuses. Those are fine. But spells, who's to say, flavor it up. Maybe it's not a fireball. Maybe your wizard wants to deal with ice, or he wants steam damage, or, as long as the effect is essentially the same, why has it got to be fireball? Why has it got to be firebolt? Why has it got to be, dimension door? I think it'd be hilarious for dimension door. All of a sudden, a little hole appears around your feet. You drop through, and then over here, you pop up out of another hole and land when the thing closes. Like the game Portal. That'd be awesome. That's because you're crazy, Anthony. Although I won't play with most of the group you're in, Anthony. I'm sorry. I've played with a couple of them, and I'm done with that. They suck the fun out of it for me. So, but it's all about fun. It should be. When the players are having fun and they're in the moment, in the story, there's the immersion happening. It's great. It's perfect. And there's just something about it when you all click. And for a sandbox campaign, that's needed. Because it's so huge open. All the DM's doing is saying, here's your starting point. Here's what you see. And then throws little hooks. Little girl comes running down the street crying, covered in blood. What do? You may do nothing and let her run by. Because you guys are too busy arguing over the cost of a new longsword. But you might stop her. And she would tell you that her parents were both just horribly massacred by some giant monster. Well, maybe she's a 5-6-year-old girl. It's all going to be a big giant monster, right? So you go to help, and it leads you into this adventure where you've got to track down the lizard men who are starting to rampage through smaller towns. Or like I said, you ignore it. Sandbox, it could happen. So maybe later, shopkeep that you were told carries the finest weapons in the entire town. Well, the shop's not even open, but they should be. People are wondering what happened. They go to his house. Front door's busted down. There's smears of blood, but there's no shopkeep around. A couple of good rolls. You start tracking it through. Oh, look, you're back to looking for the lizard men. Is it railroading? Probably. Could be seen that way. Is it natural? Could it actually happen that way? Yeah. The lizard men are attacking the damn town. They're taking other people. Or, throw out a hook for a different. You've got those things happening, but you've got reports coming from this mine that they've broken through a wall and were instantly wiped out by these monsters with these freaking tentacles coming out of their chins. Players know what they are, right? Until you flip the script and reskin something. It's all about flow, fun, and the story. Just make the players the stars. Let them have fun. Enjoy what you're building together. I've heard a lot of good and bad about Critical Role. And so I decided to watch it. So I've been binge watching it because I was curious. And that's what some of it seems to be, is it's a group of people who've worked together a lot, having fun, telling a story. Or do they always follow the rules? Probably not. Or is it the absolute best storyline? Debatable. But they're having fun. They're making it cool. Is it scripted? I don't know. I've heard that one before. But no one's I sure as hell ain't going to strive to be Matt Mercer. I'm not a voice actor. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. And I don't have a really, expensive setup to run on YouTube. But he does really well for what he does. So you just got to figure out how you want it to go. Quite honestly. Like this would be the best way for me to use existing campaigns, existing modules in my own world. Just take the parts I want, the cities, leave the rest out. Same with, D&D, Pathfinder, Shadowrun, any of them, same with the rules. I'll go through them. If there's one that I don't agree with or I don't like it, I change it. And I actually will write in the book, the new rule. And that way it's there for everyone to see. Now, when I'm actually running the game, there's a few house rules I use, but we're going to go into that into a different video because we're coming up on an hour. And so at this point, either the two of you have any questions or anything you want me to cover before we close down. Cool. Well, Netta, you and I have talked about this stuff all the time. So I plan on doing another live stream next week. And all right, well then we'll later. Cool. You up for a Google Hangout? I won't stream it. I'll just get on there. Because I gotta get some food and stuff. So yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and kill this now, and I'll message you guys about doing a Google Hangout and see who all's available. Get a nice group together, and we'll just sit around doing shit and have some fun. Yeah, I will definitely set it up and send the links. So I appreciate you guys coming in. I mean, I had like 4 viewers at the most, but I had some issues, so but yeah, I'll chat with you guys later.